All right, welcome back. Just quickly before I get into it, just want to remind you guys that we have a Discord server for the channel. Link in description if you're at all curious about talking about anything DPC related with people just like yourself who love to watch and talk about and support their favorite teams. Feel free to check that out in the description. And today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different, and that is because we have now finally surpassed and concluded the first tour, the full aspect of it, that being the regional portion, which we had for 6 weeks leading up to what should have been the first major, but ended up being regional finals. And we now have some pretty well-established standings now where every single region has roughly played the same amount of Dota. And if you guys are unfamiliar with DPC points or how they work or why they are important, essentially teams earn DPC points based on how well they play in their own region and how well they place at majors. But again, since we couldn't have a major for the first tour, that was decided in regional finals where only the top 2 teams per region earned DPC points. And these points are important because for TI 11, or for the previous TI, if you finish top 12, you are directly invited, and that is the top 12 for the standings, which includes every team from every region, meaning that a particular region can have, up to 4 slots, for example. There's no limit, but it's kind of unlikely for more than 4 teams to make it up there just because of the point distribution, and for some regions to maybe have 1 or even no teams showing up here. Again, that's also kind of unlikely, but still. And if you finish in the top 12, you're directly invited. However, even if you don't make it to the top 12, your team still has a chance to make it as long as they are a part of the DPC upper division or lower division through those regional qualifiers. And also TI 11 is going to have 2 additional slots, again, playing around those regional qualifiers. And so throughout the year, these points get more and more valuable, and more points become available to teams the further we get into the tour, thus to reward teams that are playing their best the closer to TI. And now that we're done the first tour, I thought it'd be pretty cool to go over and look at all the teams and all the standings and talking about some of the teams that face some deductions, because if you do make some roster changes to your teams, you do have some deductions to face throughout the tour, and especially if you're playing a stand-in, some of them can be pretty costly. I'll just briefly go over them really quick. If you make a roster change at any point throughout your tour, thus, getting rid of a player or something, you lose 15% of the points you've earned up to that point in the tour. So say, for example, after Tour 2, when you've accrued maybe 1,000 DPC points, if you make a roster change at that point, you're going to lose 150 DPC points for that change. And if you, for example, have a player that is unable to attend a certain tournament and you need a stand-in, then heading into that tournament, you will already be losing 40% of the points that you could earn at that tournament just for having a stand-in. And so we'll be talking about some of the teams that had to face off against maybe one or a few of those things in this video. Starting things off with the 2 teams that are tied for first place, which currently there's no tiebreaker rules installed. Usually the tiebreakers are based on regional performance and also major performance, but since that isn't a thing yet, we currently have no way to decide which team is ahead of which, so ties, ultimately no way to decide whether one team's above the other or not. So for PSG.LGD and Spirit, they're both currently tied for first place, as they were 2 of the only 3 teams that not only finished first place in their region, but also in the regional finals, and they have themselves 550 DPC points. So swell start for them, and no deductions for them either, as they didn't make any roster changes or stand-ins at any point throughout this tour. Following that, we have Boom, who also finished first place in both the finals and their own region. However, they lost 100 DPC points, 40% of what they earned at those regional finals, which was 250, for having Jackie stand in for them. And I imagine once he becomes an actual full-on member, they will also be facing another 15% deduction to their points. But currently, they sit at 3rd place, which is very, very comfortable for them. Again, setting themselves well above the top 12 bar. And I think they're going to be pretty happy with the changes that they made and how well they did with that recent change. Right behind them, we have 3 teams that are currently tied for 4th place. We have the Gaming Gladiators, fresh off a regional finals win where they took down Liquid, who is also currently tied with them so far. And we have TSM FTX, who just won their North America regional finals as well, right after finishing 2nd place in the region. So very similar to these 2 teams right here as well that they are tied with. Again, for the org TSM, I feel like they're feeling pretty happy with their signing. Following that, we have 7th place. We have Beast Coast currently sitting with 370 DPC points. And they've got to be feeling pretty good about their performance as well, especially with the way that their first tour ended. They end up finishing 3rd place, but they come back and they have a very dominant performance in those finals, and they finish first. Following that, we have Quincy Crew, who finished first place in their region in North America, but unfortunately did not earn any points in those finals. However, it didn't seem to hurt them all that much. They're still sitting in the top 12. Following that, we have Thunder Awaken, who very similarly to Quincy Crew, finished first place in their region, but was unable to replicate that performance in those finals. They don't get any points there. And in addition to that, they also had some deductions due to their kicking of Oscar, which I'll be talking about in a News of the Day video that I'm hopefully going to be uploading today as well. They lose 15% of their points, which ended up being 45 points in total for Thunder Awakened, which is why they are not tied with Quincy Crew currently. Following that, we have two teams tied at 10th place. We have Evil Geniuses, who also did not have the best tour in their own region, but they did make it to the grand finals of those of their regional finals. And because Nightfall did actually come back for that, they did not face any deductions for those 130 points that they earned. So they've got 250, which also is what Royal Never Give Up has, who also, similar to them, they finished third place in the region and second place in those regional finals to PSG.LGD. And finally, the last team sitting in the top 12 currently, even after facing a few deductions, we have Infamous, which is one that I was not expecting to have this high up this early on in the tour. And if we had had a traditional major, they would have qualified for that major, and Beast Coast would not have, who is currently sitting above them. So Beast Coast probably a little bit happy with the way things ended up going. But Infamous, they earned themselves, I believe, 300 DPC points as well. Or sorry, no, a little bit less than that, I believe. Anyways, they faced two separate deductions for the kicking of Sacred and Michael on their team, which ended up being somewhere around 86 points, which means, yeah, they had them around just over 300 points there. So best of luck to them, and hopefully the changes that they end up making to their roster end up being the right ones, as they had a pretty good run near the end of the tour, even making it all the way to the grand finals of the first tour. Now taking a look at some of the teams that are on the outside looking in, looking to get a few more points in the next tour to get themselves up there. And for a few of these teams, probably a little bit disappointed with their current placement, while some other teams maybe are a little bit happy that they made it this close to the cutoff line. First off, one team that's likely going to be very disappointed with their showing so far, we have Virtus Pro sitting at a current 198 points. Of course, they had a 40% deduction of all the points that they earned in that regional finals, because they had Hakoda standing in for them, which is a little strange because they've had Ilias or Kingslayer sitting on the inactive squad for a very, very long time now, and they didn't bring Hakoda on as a full member, so they had to face those deductions, which ended up being 52 points, quite a lot of what they earned from that one out of 130. Following that, we have three teams tied for 14th place. We have Fnatic, PuckChamp, and Aster all sitting at 180 right now. Following that, we have T1, who had a lot of deductions themselves, are currently sitting at a 168 right now, of course, with the kicking of 23 Savage, and also Gabby coming in as a stand-in. He was not actually brought in as a full member, meaning that all the points that they earned in the regional finals were also deducted. So they faced a total of around 80 DPC points deducted. So unfortunate for them, but they're still not sitting that far out. And if this change ends up being one for the better, then it won't be all that bad for them. Following that, at 18th spot, we have Tundra. And Tundra is a team that has been having a lot of hype around them as of late, and then they make that very sudden change to Fada being kicked off the team, which is a reason why they don't have a nice even number. They have 102 DPC points currently, which was due to the deductions of getting rid of Fada. But this is a team that has been pretty hit or miss here and there throughout this tour. Definitely not as consistent as we would have liked to see, or as a lot of people really make it out to be. And I'm hoping that this change that they end up making ends up being for the better, because if their performance starts to go on the downhill a little bit after kicking Fada, notably kind of out of nowhere, that would be a real dagger through the heart almost, and a lot of fans will kind of lose faith if they haven't already. Again, this kick kind of came out of nowhere. It seems a little ambitious, as it seems that they kicked Fada just to try and get another player when things already were going quite okay for Tundra. But regardless, we'll see where they go from here. Currently sitting at 102 points, which is by no means terrible. They're just sitting about 120 points out from the playoff line. Following that, we have four teams tied at 19th place right now. All of these teams finishing, I believe, 4th place in their region, and then not earning any points in their regional finals. Those being 4 Zoomers, who lost to Quincy Crew in the lower bracket, or sorry, Evil Geniuses in the lower bracket of their finals. Hellraisers, who unfortunately met up with Spirit once again in their finals. They got knocked out. We have eHome, who met up with, I believe it was Aster, who took them down in a pretty close series, to eHome's credit. And then we have OG, who also went on a little bit of a run, knocking out Tundra early on in that tour in those regional finals, but not able to take down Gaming Gladiators. In 23rd place, we have two teams tied. We have SMG with 51 points right now, and APU King of Kings also with 51 points. Both of those teams facing deductions. SMG and APU both making kicks very recently. SMG actually made their kick today, which is something I'm going to be talking about in my News of the Day video. They kicked Raj, I should say, from their squad. So that's a minus 15% there, which ended up being about 9 points. And for APU King of Kings, they kicked Valky, and that was before the regional finals even took place. So that has been quite a while already, but nonetheless they are tied right now at 23 points, and hopefully their kicks end up being ones that pay off. For King of Kings, we've already kind of seen what their roster looks like as they did play in those regional finals, whereas SMG, they made their kick after the regional finals. And for King of Kings, it didn't really seem to improve all that much. They still finished 4th place, but we'll see where they can go from here. Again, the changes were quite recent. Now taking a look at number 25, and these are the teams that are kind of near the bottom of the barrel, and the bottom half of these teams being the ones that are actually going to be staying in the upper division and that played in the upper division but didn't earn any points whatsoever. Starting things off, however, with teams that still earn some points, we have Lava, Secret, Vici, and Wildcard, who all earned 30 points for finishing 5th place in the region. Even if you don't qualify for those regional finals, which ended up being top 4 per region, 5th place still does earn some points, and that being 30. Navi and OB Neon, however, making some changes to their rosters, which did give them deductions. Navi kicking General, and then OB Neon having Hustla and Mamang Daya, the second of which being more recent, leaving their team as well. So for OB Neon, this has been a pretty polarizing tour. Again, they were doing quite well outside of the DPC, but weren't able to replicate that in it. They do manage to scave off elimination with a very, very impressive tiebreaker showing, taking down both Motivate and Execration. But yeah, we'll see where they end up going from here. And now for the bottom 6, we have the 6th place finishers of every single region. Again, all of these teams played in the upper division, but are currently still at the starting line right now. They have still not earned any points. And for teams coming in from the upper division for Tour 2, they're already tied with a lot of these teams on the board. Some of these teams, however, are pretty happy with finishing 6th place, while some other ones, the fan bases might definitely be a little bit disappointed with it. For teams that are pretty happy with things, I gotta say Mind Games, Hokori, Simply 2-Based, even Execration, all of them just narrowly dodged relegation to the lower division at the last second to finish 6th place, keep themselves in the upper division, which means there's still a chance that they do earn some points. As for LBZS, I think they can be pretty happy with their tour as well, after having lost pretty much their entire roster in the offseason heading into China's upper division, and with how strong China's upper division still is in comparison with some of the other regions, this was a pretty impressive 6th place finish for them. But for Team Nigma, which is the real standout here, finishing 6th place is not, I think, what a lot of people were expecting, at least with the momentum that they had heading into those tiebreakers, where every single matchup just felt really depressing to watch, and it was a real step backwards in their quality of game that they had been building up to that point, especially after bringing Miracle back. But yeah, anyways, this is the current standings, the top 36 teams. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Who do you think ends up making it into the top 12 after Tour 2? Do you think any of these teams that have made changes, face deductions, will get better? Or do you think they maybe have made their changes for the worse? For example, Tundra, that seems to be a really, really 50-50 one right now. And for VP, for example, they earn a whole bunch of points making it to the regional, to the grand finals of the regional finals, but they had Hakoda playing as a stand-in and they faced a lot of deductions for that. Do you think that was worth it? Do you think they bring back Kingslayer, or do they hold on to Hakoda? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below as always. Again, check out the Discord, everything linked down below. Review for the regional finals that took place this weekend on my channel. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later today in a News of the Day video. Bye.